Hey everyone, it's Bree. I'm back with another scrapbook process video for the SpiegelMom Scraps design team. My code is Brianna15 and that'll save you 15% off in the shop. I am going to be working with some mixed media to start off with. I've got some marshmallow basil cardstock and I am going to be using some shimmers. Now, I am not going to be adding gesso to my cardstock because I don't plan on using a lot of liquid. I had purchased this brayer at a scrapbook garage sale. Well, it wasn't even like a scrapbook garage sale. It was a garage sale, and this lady happened to have a lot of Stampin' Up! Products, and she had this brand new brayer for $2. And I had purchased it, and I haven't really had the chance to use it, and I really wanted to incorporate it onto one of my pages. And so I have got some Shimmers Vibes in Frostbite, and that's the blue color that I have laid down. And then I'm also using a Creamies in Grapefruit. And let's see, what else am I going to be using? That's it for now. And then to the side, I do have a Colorings in Oh Say Can You See. I think that's what it is. Yes, that is correct. That's what it is. I just had to double check. I would hate to give you incorrect information. Okay, so I have just basically, I'm just adding the colors onto the page. I kind of have an idea of how my layout is going to look. I am going to be making more, surprise, surprise, shaker elements or shaker frames using some chipboard frames that I just received in my recent Hip Kit Club kit. So I'm just working on my background and adding the color. I know that I wanted to have my frames kind of scattered around my page, so that's why I added so much color to the entire page. I did some splatters. Yeah, I love working with that brayer. It doesn't add too much liquid because, well, obviously I don't have gesso, so the paper automatically absorbs it. So yeah, I love how it turned out. All right, so the photo that I'm using is of my son. This is, I believe, when we first moved to Hawaii back in 2015. This was like in January. Can you believe that? And it's freezing where we are now. So we totally miss the beach and the sun and everything about Hawaii. So yeah, I had put my photo in one of the frames, and then I've got the rest of my chipboard frames that you see there, and that's where I'm going to choose two to make my shakers. So I have got my thin foam strips, and what I'm using, or the brand that I'm using of those thin foam strips is by Doris, and I picked those up from Simon Says Stamp. So I take the release paper off of the foam, and that way I can manipulate the foam so it can bend and go around corners without me having to trim it. It's just so much easier. And I'm using acetate to create my little window. And you don't have to use acetate. If you don't have acetate, you could use packaging from any thickers pack or stickers or any packaging. You can even cut up you know, the hard plastic that comes in ephemera. You can totally trim that down. I just had happened to find a huge box of the transparencies at a local Goodwill, and that's what I used. So the reason behind me doing more shaker frames is because this beautiful sequins pack is called Starry Dreams, and they are tiny little stars as well as some blue cupped sequins, and they're so tiny. As soon as I saw this mix, I knew I wanted to make shakers with them. And so when I got my new Hip Kit Club kit, I thought, oh, look, there's even more frames. And if you've seen several of my videos, you know I am a huge lover of making shakers using chipboard frames, any like cardstock frames, ephemera frames, anything, because I do have a hard time using them on my layout if I don't make a shaker. So I have chosen a second frame, and I have zoomed in. That way you can get a better idea of how I make my shaker. I just trim my acetate, and I get my foam around it. And I did only do one layer of foam tape. I didn't do two. These sequins are very thin and they're tiny, and they still shake without a lot of dimension. So I'm just creating my little, like, I always can never like explain myself. I just create a little place for my for my sequins to lie, and then I'm trying to choose here what my background is going to be. In my pink shaker, I had used a Project Life card, and so I'm just kind of going through the Project Life cards that came in my kits to see if there's another one that I want to use, and um, I didn't. I'm trying to remember which one I used. I think I ended up pulling a different kit or some different Project Life cards for the back of this blue frame. And that's what I'm doing. Excuse me. So the powder tool that I'm using is by EK Success. I add that to my acetate to help decrease static so my sequins don't stick to it, as well as if the adhesive, it kind of on my foam tape, that way my little sequins don't stick to it. I rub it all over the sides of my foam tape. And I'm also adding glue on top of the foam just to double secure my shaker. Being that these sequins are so tiny, I don't want any to slip in case my foam doesn't stick all the way down to my Project Life card. And I'm just doing it for to make sure, you know how sometimes chipboard doesn't really stick down. I just wanted to make sure that I'm really sealing my shaker. That way none of them gets loose because they're so pretty. And I love how they turned out. Those sequins are so pretty. I think I need to order like 5 more packs of the Starry Dream mix. Okay, so here I am pulling out all of the frames from that sheet as well as the centers of the frames. I knew I wanted to add some of those chipboard elements, the little like icons onto the frames itself, like on the outside. And so I'm just kind of separating them and trying to figure out what frames I want. And I did mess with this a little longer than I probably wanted to. Yeah, you'll see here in a minute. So I am going to be adding some white splatters to help give my page some interest. This is a acrylic marker pen, and I can't remember the brand. I think I hold it up to the camera here in just a second. There you go. And I got it off of Amazon. But I love how it added a little extra something. It kind of tied all of the colors together. All right, so I am going to be backing most of, actually, I think I back all of these chipboard frames. I thought about leaving them and making the background appear through the frames, but I decided against it and wanted to add some pattern paper or some Project Life cards behind them. All right, so this is me just being completely indecisive and trying to figure out which cards I want to stick behind the frames. I wanted it to match my color scheme or like my background as well as the collection that I was using. Now the Pink Fresh Studio line, I think it's, oh, which one is it? It's called Everyday Musings, and that's the line that came in the January hip kits. So I think I pulled some Project Life cards. Oh gosh, I think from the August kit. I can't remember. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just backing all my frames. And like I said, I fussed with this quite a bit in regard to placement and which frames I was going to use and which ones I wasn't going to use. And then my poor paper started warping, and it was kind of frustrating. So that's why I have my scissors as well as my gesso up at the top to kind of help keep it down so I can glue down my chipboard frames because they were heavy and I wanted to make sure they stayed and didn't get all wonky. All right, so I love how this layout turned out in regard to my chipboard frames and where I placed everything. Now I did kind of second guess myself on the top one. I thought I should have moved it over to the right. That way I could have added another element to the left of that frame. See, I thought, oh, that little frame could have fit perfectly, and I thought about just adding it there, but it just kind of threw it off. It didn't really look right. So I ended up nixing that idea and just thinking that I would fill in that space with ephemera or a different embellishment. All right. So let's see. I've got, I added these 2 hearts. One says, let me get my layout here. One says, life is beautiful, and the other one says love. And I kind of filled in those gaps and sandwiched that little frame at the top. And then I've got the ephemera pack for the Everyday Musings from Pink Fresh Studio. And my title, as you can see from the video, it's So Happy We're Here, because um, we were very, very happy. I mean, I know I'm totally scrapbooking this photo like years after we've left Hawaii, but at the moment we were very happy that we were there. So I thought that counted. And it fits perfectly right in that space. And I'm just basically going through the ephemera pack and adding little bits here and there. I like this tag, so I was going to add some some white string to the end to give them interest. And so it wasn't completely naked up there. And I'll just glue that down. And then I add this little windmill. That's a chipboard piece as well. Yeah, I'm just embellishing, one of my favorite parts other than adding all the sequins. Okay, like I've said this before in several videos, every time I get a new collection or a new kit, I have a very hard time choosing what to use because there's so much of it that I love and I can never make up my mind as to what I want to use. So this layout did take a little longer than usual only because I could not make up my mind as to what I wanted to use. But I'm very pleased with how it came out. Okay, so since I have my two shakers, I thought I needed a little bit more in my frames. So I just added some glue in a big clump, and then I just poured on some of the Starry Dream sequins just to kind of make it look like my sequins were kind of just sitting there. So it was like its own little shaker without them moving. And I love how that turned out. I'm so in love with the specific mix. I love it so much. It's so pretty. And then, let's see, I add this little tassel. I think it's not a tassel, it's like a bow. I added that, the mint one, and then I wanted to add a puffy sticker. I think I chose the bird. Yeah, I did choose the bird. I think I was going to choose the love, but it stood out to me too much, and it drew your eye directly to that, and I didn't like that. All right, so on this frame, I do add some more sequins, of course, and I'm just pouring those on there. And making sure they were all in the glue so they stay. And I'm using the Scotch Tacky glue that's in my little fine line bottle. And let's see, I think I'm almost done. I add one sticker. I think it says "This makes me happy." I think that's the one I choose. And it nestles perfectly right in that little space. I don't add any journaling on this page on camera. I'll do that after. Let's see. I think I'm trying to figure out what else I want to add. I knew there was something else. That happy didn't make it. Or see, that's where I tried to add the love and it didn't. I think I just leave it as that. And oh no, I do add some Heidi Swap tinsel color shine, and it's just this really pretty silver that I just wanted to sprinkle around the page. And that about does it. I love how this came out. I hope you guys are able to try out making some more shaker frames. There's my final layout. I do have a episode up on the SpiegelMom Scraps IGTV. Definitely go check it out. It is a quick tutorial on how to make a shaker using chipboard frames. Thanks again for watching, commenting, and subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.